Data-driven clinical trials. How one company is shortening time to market. By Dr. Simon J. Sonntag, Virtonomy.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So it's a great pleasure being here and present you Virtonomy. And thanks a lot, Ryan, for the invitation for being here in Malta and present us. So I'm Simon Sonntag. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Virtonomy. And we make clinical trials of medical devices affordable again with the use of virtual patients. So the status quo of conventional source of evidence that is there are animal testing, human trials, and expensive benchtop testing. This status quo is not sustainable anymore. This is because the biggest challenge for medical device manufacturers is the tremendous increase of cost that is associated with this. Time to market can be over 10 years. At the same time, trials expose many patients to unproven therapies. And there's a high percentage of patients that are underrepresented, like women, children, rare disease, and ethnic groups. All this we are going to change at Virtonomy with the use of in silico computer simulations. This trend is heavily supported by the FDA that is predicting that within the next 5 years, over 40% of the regulatory process will be covered by virtual patients and simulations. Our product is 𝐉𝐸patients.com. It's a web-based software service solution that is based on thousands of imaging data and real evidence data of humans and animals. The users, the implant developers, can perform the patient analysis and the simulation of the target population variability. And the tool is integrated in the complete product lifecycle of the medical device development and approval process. And how this looks like, I show you now. So the conventional steps from the development process are you start with the concept phase, go over the manufacturing, the animal testing, then also cadaver studies, until then, after many years and highly expensive, for the first time your device is tested in a human being. When you fail there, you have to go back to the concept, what is majorly expensive and also time-consuming. With 𝐉𝐸patients, it is possible to test your device early on using virtual patients. So you can perform iteration loops within days and reduce costs to then reduce the risk of failure in a later stage. Also during the process, your animal trials can be expanded and refined with that, and also the clinical trials can be refined. Imagine that your device is not just tested in hundreds of patients, but thousands or even millions of virtual patients. By that, we can reduce tremendously the cost and time to market for your medical device, but also increase the confidence in that as we can increase, then also the parameters that are analyzed, and we can also close the inequality gap that is still there within clinical trials and R&D processes. In our system, everything starts with the virtual patients. So you can, when you have access to the platform, then select your patient cohort based on gender, age, and also the pathology group. Based on that, on the virtual patient cohorts, then different in silico testing approaches can be applied, like statistical analysis, simulation applications. And then your CAD model, your design can be optimized using this information and can be linked back to the data, to the virtual patient cohort. For example, when you want to change that, when you address a different market or a different pathology group. We are also integrating a collaborative and communicative aspect to bring together the different stakeholders of medical device development process and also the regulators. And once you achieve a certain stage of a development process, you can get the digital evidence of a product development and submit this to the regulatory authorities like FDA or notified bodies to then get acceptance of the product together with the other clinical evidence that you are submitting. Our first focus is the cardiovascular domain, where we have already gathered thousands of imaging data together for the creation of our virtual patients. Also different pathology groups for the heart disease, heart valve defects, and so on. But also large animals that are used there also to expand the animal trials. Using this data, then a population-based analysis is possible, so all kinds of statistical analysis concerning different measurements of the body, of the anatomical constraints, to then find out about the inclusion and exclusion criteria, eligibility criteria of a patient cohort that you then want to advance further in your steps. The simulation variabilities are then connected also through to a viewer where you three-dimensionally and four-dimensionally can investigate the data, the anatomical constraints of the body, and perform the simulations. But not just the engineers. You can here then also integrate another person into the system, like a clinician, and work together there. And this is not a screen sharing, but it's really you're together in a data room, like in a computer game, working together in the digital environment, where you can even use virtual reality to expand your experience there. Here you can see also then the crimping process and implantation of a stent that is then also implanted into a vessel wall, what you can also do interactively together. The next stage is done when you have the design history together and all the evidence that you've created in the environment with the digital evidence. This can then be created to the reporting that supports then your design history file, but also then the rationale for the animal studies, but also population-based analysis and global evidence that you're taking then for the submission process. Now I want to show you two examples of customers that we can provide. So the first one is about a total artificial heart. So this is a mechanical substitute of the native heart with a mechanical pumping system. Real Heart, a Swedish company, has developed this, and in 2018 they were struggling with animal trials in calves because there was a mismatch between the animal type and then also the design of the device. So this failed. These animal trials failed in a trial and error process, and they did not know how to continue. So we used our virtual cohort and tested this device in different animals and breeds like calf, keep, and pig and sheep, and then also testing different implantation protocols, like here the sternocotomy, but also thoracotomy, so how you advance and forward the implantation in the body. The best configuration of that was then used to repeat the animal trial in a new cohort, and this was leading then to a successful implantation of the device in the animal cohort, and a crucial milestone for the company to move on. And this showed that we could reduce here the animals significantly as this trial and error process and this whole concept was then erased by virtual testing before you advance to the next stage. But we are not stopping here. So with them, we are also going the next stage to the clinical trial because they don't know in what patient cohort this device can be implanted and where not. So we perform here our simulations where this device is then implanted in the body, where you can also see here the interaction of the device with the lung, diaphragm, and so on. And also then the patient cohort where it cannot be implanted. So for example, small female patients. But this data can also be used to advance the design of the device, to optimize it in a way to increase the population fit. And imagine that you can increase the population fit by a certain percentage. You're also increasing then percentage of the market that you have with your device development process. The second example that I want to show you is the right heart intervention group. So for, especially with minimal invasive procedures like transcatheter devices, it's very difficult to implant these devices then into your body and also to have a specific design that can be used for the major groups of the patients. And also there's the question if you need to have different sizes of your device to cover then also the whole population group. So here in this case, we were investigating the right heart of the patient. So here you can see this in systolic and end-diastolic phase. So when the heart is completely contracted and expanded. And then we were performing all kinds of different measurements. Because for a medical device manufacturer, you don't know what is really the constraints of a device. And what does it mean when I want to implant in 80% of the population? What is 80% of the population? So here we were able to have all this statistical analysis, and you can see here, that, for example, the age distribution, but also the gender or the weight distribution, and also the distributions of different measurements, like then diameters of the annulus plane, but also then different measurements of the ventricle size, atrium sizes. This is then bringing them to the design constraints that they're using then to advance the device development. But we're also looking into the implantation process itself. So here the transcatheter implantation process over the transfemoral access point, so over the leg in distribution way there. So we're using imaging data here again to reconstruct then the anatomy of that, and also then performing the virtual simulation process. So you can see then the implantation of the cannula into the system and also the interaction between the tissue, but also then with the device. For example, to investigate the different stress distribution, bending angles of your device, to then also optimize this and make it really applicable to the population cohort. So the benefits of our virtual patient analysis and how we can really advance forward there is we can analyze a high amount of parameter data sets. We can here really look at healthy patient groups, but also disease patient groups, investigate all this in a different and safe environment. We also better understand the underlying mechanisms that are there that is not accessible with experimental testing, and by that reduce the iteration loops that are so expensive when you fail in a late stage, and by that really reduce cost and time to market. If you want to learn more, you can also come to our website, vpatients.com, and schedule a demo with us to see this also in action. And also visit us in our booth at the upper side of the stage. Thank you very much.